of it all.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started, and then people will come and go as they please. So I'll go ahead and get started with an intro. So first of all, I want to let everyone again, thanks for coming to the cybersecurity webinar today, hosted by IPN West, and we have the amazing Asif Gaba with us, and Asif is a director at a leading global firm within the risk and cybersecurity practice. He has well over 24 years of experience in information technology, risk, security, regulatory compliance, and so much more. He also has an MBA in strategic management, along with a list of certifications longer than I can list off. And he's always, on LinkedIn and Twitter and other social media platforms, just, always sharing his knowledge. So please follow him there, if you want to learn more stuff and carry on the conversation after this. And with that, Asif, I'll let you take it away.
All right, thank you, Arsalan. Yali everyone. I hope everyone's having a great weekend. I'm pleased to be here and honored actually to be presenting at IPN for the very first time. Again, my name is Asif Kaba, and the topic for today's presentation is cybersecurity. Wear your security mask. Starting off with it, every one of you, I think, is somehow aware of, the topics we're going to talk about. But I'm going to go into it in a little bit more detail. We'll go through what cybersecurity is, its impact on our personal and business lives to a certain degree. I'll go over some good hygiene, cybersecurity practices, and talk about some opportunities, which I think most of you are here to discuss or at least hear about. And a little bit of summary guidance overall as to what is cybersecurity, how do we protect ourselves. Again, just want to reiterate for the team joining, you might have already read, but this is more of a layman's type of a presentation. This is for someone who is just dabbling in cybersecurity, who's kind of intrigued, but hasn't really done the technical work or is not already in a field of cybersecurity. So with that being said, the content will be a bit elementary for some of you, if that is the case, if you are from the industry. But if not, enjoy the ride. And I would say the information that you see here, you can share. It will be made available to all of you. You can share across your families, your networks, locally, internationally, globally, however you feel appropriate. That being said, let's begin. So what is cybersecurity? I can quote a whole bunch of different interpretations on what cybersecurity is, but basically it's really protecting your devices, the computing devices, the data, the applications, and any networks from anyone accessing without authorization or attacking it. So avoiding the abuse or inadvertent exposure of your information is basically what cybersecurity is all about. And it deals with devices, data, applications, and networks. A little bit about the history. Well, as you all know, it started in the agrarian age where the steam engine was first formed, and it brought forth a revolution in the industry. As we advanced as a human society, electricity was invented. It was then utilized to do some of the same work that the steam engine would have done, but it was doing it much better, much faster, and at a speed that they had not seen before. So efficiencies were added, and as humankind evolved even further in terms of the technology around electricity and computing, the digital revolution came around, the third industrial revolution in this case, in which we no longer had paper-based systems. We were able to do things online in a digital format, online meaning on computers, until things started to get connected, which is the cyber revolution. So the fourth industrial revolution is really the hyper-connected devices that are talking to each other now, doesn't even require a human interface, and figuring things out. There are sensors all over the place. So from the average person standpoint, cybersecurity impacts the obvious things, but you'll notice that, besides your mobile phones, laptops, your smartwatches, your Google connected devices, Echo, Dot, et cetera, you also have some things that are talking to each other that require cybersecurity, which are like satellites and manufacturing plants and machines talking to each other, so that there's hardly any human intervention. Everything is done through the Internet of Things, which means all those dumb devices that required manual intervention are no longer in need of that. They are actually electronically connected to each other and communicating live. So imagine a ball of live wires, always talking, always connected, always communicating, and it's all towards building towards efficiency. And as you innovate in an environment where internet technology is utilized, understand internet was invented to share information, not to block information. So this sharing of information also allows people to enter into environments where they're not supposed to. So we are now going basically against the grain and trying to protect all of these devices and secure them. So that is where cybersecurity comes into play. In terms of impact on our personal lives and business lives, so on the left-hand side, you'll see all those personal things that we do, right? Like check out who's at the door using our Ring system, right? You can visit the doctor to telehealth. You can remotely turn devices on and off. I can open up my garage with my phone. I can take medications if I have an insulin pump and it's connected to my phone. It actually releases insulin at a certain level based on what I want. I can order food and groceries to be delivered to my house without me even leaving my bed. And on the other hand, from a work standpoint, I can subcontract out work to get tiling done in my, in the backyard or in my back office environment. I can retrieve and store tons of data into the cloud and pull it down. It is very, very easy. I can adjust my marketing approaches for my business. I can engage in multiple different sales channels, and I don't have to be there other than just clicking a couple of buttons and automating it. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, all of that is coming to play where Internet of Things is allowing now to simplify these tedious tasks that we had to do. And it used to take days, sometimes months to accomplish. It's now being done in seconds. Now, all of these efficiencies are great, but it also introduces certain vulnerabilities for us, right? So these opportunities for the bad guys with some bad intention, of course, to take advantage by stealing your information, your personal information, your business information, like intellectual property, your secret recipe, the way you handle your clients, your vendor list, your client list, so on and so forth, and even your personal information, like your health information. So how do they do that? The most obvious ones that are nowadays very popular, and I'd like you to learn some of these words, are through the following methods listed here, right? Social engineering and phishing. Social engineering is basically trying to trick you to give information or access a website or so to provide your detail without you recognizing that it's actually a con. So phishing is through emails. Social engineering could be manual. Someone can walk behind you into a building without their having their badge and getting into areas that you're not supposed to be in. That is part of social engineering. Ransomware, on the other hand, is basically software code that once you click a link, that code on the system that you click from will actually force all of your data to be encrypted. It'll lock it down. You won't be able to access it. So imagine having children's birthday photographs, your wedding pictures, everything being on your machine, and you inadvertently clicked a button on an email or a link on an email, and you've lost every single thing. Now, it's not lost. For a certain number of Bitcoins, you will be able to get it back. The only challenge is you didn't have to do that if you had been careful and you had not clicked on that link. So it's introducing a few vulnerabilities here. War driving is another way where children can actually do this. They can drive past your home and check your Wi-Fi network to see if they can connect. And if it's a weak enough network, they'll break in and they'll use that to actually perform nefarious tasks, such as hacking into other people's environments, pretending to be you because it's through your network. They might even take over your network and use it for other purposes, and you would have no clue. It's just bandwidth is a little slower today. Denial of a service attacks, that happens usually with companies with websites where someone can actually send a bunch of traffic. So when a person clicks on a link on your website, they actually do a transaction. Similarly, if 10,000 transactions start happening every millisecond, you can imagine the weight of all of those transactions on your servers that manage the website, or the website itself can be brought down. It will slow it down or bring it down, and you'll be out of business. So if you're doing e-commerce online, you can't run those systems because your systems are down because of denial of service attacks. And then password cracking is basically these little applications that allow you or a hacker to run through all dictionary words and all possible combinations of characters to come up with the right password for your system and break in. You could just imagine if you're using the same password across a variety of different systems, If a bad guy gets one of those, of course, the first thing they're going to do is try to hack into all your other devices or applications using the same password. Imagine the damages it could do if you're using the same password with a 1 or a 2 at the end, flip-flopped around. There's some recommendations on how to improve on how we do these things as well. So let's talk about some of the value of information that you have. Data is the most valuable asset we all have. And basically, when we talk about cost of a data breach, healthcare data has been the most expensive. Even in the black market, healthcare data breaches are the most popular. What is a breach? A breach is basically when you break in. Once they're in, they can take information. The value of your financial information could cost 75 cents in the black market. Your healthcare information costs $325 per instance. So you can imagine the drive towards gaining that sort of data by the hackers out there. Some of these data breaches occur because there's some innocent people who have, just out of ignorance, if you will, not intentional, and they'll, forget to read through the email to see if it's a genuine thing, and might click on something. They may forget to close their laptop screen when they walk away from their desk because, and of course, if they don't have a password and they're in a public place, maybe pick up coffee at Starbucks while your laptop's on your table. You're going to think, who could probably access it? It's easy. So these are inadvertent actions by unknowing folks. By insiders, I mean, if you're working for a company, don't even have to be working for a company. Your family members could make a mistake as well in a similar fashion and release your information unknowingly. For businesses, there is a huge amount of news out there around third-party breaches. If you recall, vendors that don't have a good handle on their cybersecurity, like the instance with Target. I think you might all have remembered the Target attack. It was the biggest data breach at the time. And basically, the bad guys got in through an email of a vendor. It's not even the company's own people. It was a third-party person who had an email address access. And through there, the hackers got in. This threat increases even more when those same third-party vendors engage other vendors, which are called fourth parties. Anyways, I've provided a link here on notable hacks. You can go in and find that out. The cost of a data breach report is published annually by IBM and the Ponemon Institute. It's been funded for a number of years. And if you'll notice, they actually highlight that, it has been consistently the highest cost when it comes to data breaches in the healthcare industry. Let me move on to the next. By the way, if you do have questions, please put them in the chat and hold them until the end of the session. I won't take any more than 20 more minutes, and that should be sufficient to allow us some more time to ask questions at that point to the moderator. Appreciate it. Now, what are some good cyber practices? Well, like I mentioned, lock your devices, protect them, shut the screen, get a password lock on your machines. I know a lot of people say, well, I don't want to put a password on my phone each time I have to, click 3 or 4 buttons, blah, blah, blah. But that little thing can actually save you a whole lot of hassle. Change your default passwords on your devices. The baby monitors people have, the routers that they receive, sometimes the printers they actually have a factory default password at times. So, some vendors are pretty good about it, others aren't. There was a case where a cyber connected tea kettle, it was just a hot water kettle that was sold for 120 pounds or so at one point, was being sold in the marketplace. Many people went out and got it and say, oh, I can turn on the kettle whenever I want to through my phone because it's Wi-Fi connected. Well, the chip on that one was actually using the same user ID and password on every single device. So you could imagine when the hackers figured that one out, they were having a heyday with those devices. So the company actually had to fix that in their next iteration. It becomes very, very difficult to recover from something like that. And so good hygiene isn't just necessary for us, but also for companies out there that are making products. So at this point, companies are very savvy about it. They are trying to change things, but there are products in the marketplace that don't have that level of rigor. So we want to make sure that when you get a device like that, change the default password. It should be in the manual that comes with it, but it would be important to do that. I do recall listening to people's conversations on my 2.4 gigahertz phone at one point. I think it was the neighbor that was like next door or 2 doors down where they had a little baby. Their baby monitor was on and I could hear everything that was going on in their home, which is, not even connecting. So just bear that in mind. Your passwords, Most of us who work for larger corporations, they actually have a training program where they teach you that, we're expecting you to have your password be a certain length. 8 characters is usually what's required, but I would say make it a little bit longer, make them stronger. Don't just write password one or QWERTY, which is like the sequence of keys on your keyboard, or 1 2 3 4 5 6 and so on. These are not good passwords. In fact, they're the easiest ones to hack into, and they are consistently being seen in the network. Um, as it relates to adding the exclamation point at the end of the password and a capital letter at the beginning of the password, that doesn't help either. So um, a recommendation is around getting maybe a password vault or perhaps a password data, some sort of a wallet that actually keeps your passwords safe. Not the wallet that just stores your password, but something that keeps it safe. Try to avoid putting it on like sticky notes or maybe a notes file in your phone. I know a lot of you guys are probably doing that. Try to avoid that. That's probably the most dangerous thing you can do for yourself. So get some sort of a controlled environment where you can keep your passwords, keep them strong, and they should be kept safe. And change them frequently. 90 days is what usually corporations require. Some corporations are actually going as far as doing it every 30 days. So just follow good hygiene, do it frequently enough so that it's not a nuisance, yet it does serve the purpose. Two-factor login, that's kind of a new term for some people. You might hear terms like MFA, you might hear terms like multi-factor authentication, multi-step authentication, so on and so forth. So basically, the factors of authentication is just to validate that you are really the person who's accessing the system. So how can they validate it? So each factor is either something which is your password, something you have, like your mobile phone through which you're accessing it, and something you are, which is your facial scan, sometimes the fingerprint, and so on and so forth. Those are 3 different factors. Some of the applications out there like Facebook and LinkedIn, etc., Vanguard as well, they will not allow even you access to your system unless you enter a code they send to your phone that you have set on that application. When you log in that code and you type it in to confirm it's actually you, then only can you get into that page or the app. So try to use those features if they're available. It'll protect you beyond somebody hacking into your password, because the third factor is something they don't have. You're the only one who has it, unless they expend effort to actually get a facial scan that matches yours. In any case, it's a good habit to have multi-factor authentication where available. We're going to go into a little bit more on what we do, right? We as human beings, we're for social people, and therefore we use social media. We try to communicate with people. We go on Twitter to read information, maybe post and express our opinions. We go to Instagram. My children definitely do. I'm on Instagram as well, and I know that sometimes we kind of open our account to everybody. So when you're putting information on Instagram, try to, or any of the social media channels, Facebook included, try to limit sharing personal information with people who you don't know, or just in general. You don't need to share that level of detail. If you can avoid it, please do. It's just good social hygiene as well as cyber hygiene. Beware of these emails that show up that say the Nigerian prince wants to give you all his money if you give him your bank account information. There is no such Nigerian prince, and nobody's giving you free money for no reason. So beware of those. Usually it comes through emails. It used to. Now you're seeing links on SMS. It'll say, for example, the Postal Service is trying to deliver your package. Here's the tracking information. And you're like, I don't know of any package that I've ordered on the Postal Service system. Why am I getting sent this link? But sometimes we're curious and we want to click on that link. Please avoid that. That's actually a hacking approach. Phone calls, even where you're asked to press some buttons which will allow them access to information, avoid that. If you don't know it, don't respond to it. Delete the SMS if necessary. If they really need to get a hold of you, they'll get a hold of you. If you don't recall ordering any package, there probably isn't any package. And so whenever it's too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. When you do see a link on your laptop, for example, in your email system, if you can hover your cursor over it, it'll actually show you who the sender is. And if that doesn't match the sender information in the sender field, you might be able to right away say, okay, this is a hacker or maybe a bad person trying to get access to your data. Do not provide any personal information to anyone unless you voluntarily want to. It's not required by anybody right now. Nobody sends emails asking you for personal information. It's always a person-to-person contact, and that you need to make sure you're validating it before you get into that. If you're using a smartphone, don't click any links. Don't open any files sent via text. If you see somebody saying, hey, listen, I have a picture of your wedding that I was saving, take a look. Well, hold on a second. Why do you have that picture? And why are you sending it to me on my phone? And by the way, just contact the person and say, hey, listen, did you really send something to me? I recently had a person send me his itinerary. He used to live in Chicago. He's moved to Florida. He sent me his itinerary saying, hey, listen, this is my itinerary for the next month's visit that I'm going to be making. And at this point, I'm like, I know this person comes around each month. This is the first time he's ever sent me an itinerary. And it was a PDF file. So I'm thinking, okay, well, it could be safe, but I just contacted him directly. I'm like, hey, did you send me a file? He goes, yes, just to verify. And so it was his itinerary. It was just a special visit he was trying to make for his father's birthday. So I just wanted to let you guys know that this is sometimes legitimate, but verify these things. Don't just click on something. And if you've clicked on something and it didn't open the file, you have to be very cautious. That could have been a hack that just made it through. So be aware and be wise about which links you click. As far as your devices are concerned, actually, a majority of the hacks out there are against operating systems or firmware and software patches on your devices not being updated. Big companies have been brought down due to these vulnerabilities. So basically, an OS or whenever your laptop says, okay, we've got some files to update, we'd like to make sure that it's done. Can we restart now? I would recommend you do that right away to allow your system to update the software patch. The reason being is these software patches are identified after somebody recognizes a vulnerability. Now, mind you, this vulnerability is shared in the public space with everyone. So I'll give you an example. Microsoft, on a patch Tuesday is what it's called, is where it publishes all these patches that will be closing out vulnerabilities on the system. And it explains the vulnerability that it's going to fix. Could you imagine the bad guys just waiting there to see, okay, what windows and doors are open so I can break into this house? And it's broadcasted to the globe on Tuesday. So they're out there, they look for it, and then they go attacking because it's just so easy to walk in, right? To avoid a lot of these instances, make sure your antivirus software is up to date and your malware protection is up to date on your personal devices. Usually your laptops have Malwarebytes or some other solution in there. If not, I would recommend going out and getting some reputable solution so that you have your system protected from malware. So it'll actually, when your emails come through, if it notices any malware in there, it's going to quarantine it. Just put it aside. It won't even show it to you, and it'll just tell you, hey, we found some malware. We're going to go ahead and quarantine it. And if you want to delete it, we can delete it. So these applications are supposed to be helpful. When you're connecting over Wi-Fi in public places, a lot of people say, oh, I just want to be on the Wi-Fi so I don't use my cellular data. The challenge is the public Wi-Fi is an open landscape for anyone to basically spy on any information you're sending and perhaps even ride along with you into any websites that you access, especially work-related websites. So a good recommendation is to have a virtual private network. They call it a VPN. You can buy that VPN and install it on your devices, your phone connection, or your laptops, your smart devices. VPNs are helpful. They're not a guarantee against hacking, but they are helpful when you're connecting over Wi-Fi in places because it gives you a direct tunnel into the company or whatever location you're connecting to, and people can't see your information. You also should activate for your children parental controls and monitoring software. These are very helpful. Please read up on those and deploy those. Children are being, the predators are out there. Children are being attacked from a bullying standpoint, from predatory actions, etc. I can't go into too much detail, but I would say you hear enough stuff on the news, and I believe you might be benefiting by reading up on the information and at least getting some sort of conversation going with your children to let them know about cyber hygiene, good practices, how to behave on social media and so on, and who not to share information with, and just to block some people in general who you don't know from being able to see your content. Anyways, opportunities in cybersecurity. Let's talk about that. Oh gosh, cyber is pretty much everywhere, right? There's so many opportunities, and it doesn't have to be the IT guy. It doesn't have to be a software engineer that gets into cyber. Cyber is open to a variety of different industries and many, many different disciplines. You can see these here. I mean, I've seen cyber relevant in pretty much everything I deal with on a day-to-day basis. I went to my doctors. My healthcare information needs to be secured. Healthcare, cyber, life sciences, where my medicines and the compounds that are used to generate life-saving drugs, they need to be protected as well from hackers coming in. Usually, nation states who want to take out, some companies like that so that they can have better advantages over our local organizations and companies. Tourism, where travel information, your airline, travel details or their flight patterns and mechanisms allowing you to travel from one to the other place safely can be attacked. Retail is when you go pay with your, credit card or using tap or somebody sneaking information in from the point of sale system is a relevant concern. So it fits in every single industry. There is a need to protect information, and that is through cybersecurity. And it can be a variety of different things, right? I've listed some here, but I'm going to go into the opportunities that are out there as well. So these are just a smattering of disciplines. So according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, cybersecurity is an amazingly fast-growing field. The median pay is $103,000 per year. Your typical entry-level education is a bachelor's degree, and I am seeing people without bachelor's. In fact, GEDs. There is hardly a barrier to entry into cybersecurity. When you talk about number of jobs in 2020, there were 141,200, and it's growing at a breakneck speed right now. The prospect of employment change here, it's actually astounding numbers out there. This number is a very, very conservative estimate of the growth. But if you see the bar chart on the top, on the right-hand side, you'll notice that all the other occupations, including computer occupations, don't even come close to it. This is around information security analyst positions. So going a little bit into detail on the facts and figures, when we look at average salary, it is now nearly 3 times the national average. This is according to the sources I've listed here. The speed of growth in cybersecurity, it's 12 times that compared to the current US job market. The unfilled cybersecurity positions are 2.7 million globally, and the year-over-year increase of people getting into the cyber workforce from last year to this year was 700,000 more people got in. So right now, the US workforce is sitting at 1.26 million people in the space, and we still don't have all positions filled. There aren't sufficient number of cybersecurity educated people coming out of universities to be able to fill these positions. And slowly what's happening is that people who are in other IT or relevant fields, they're actually pivoting over to get into cybersecurity. In fact, many organizations' functions are changing to incorporate cybersecurity in their day-to-day lives. So you can see the opportunity is just massive. And of course, it's very lucrative and it's well funded as well. This is just the commercial enterprises, but also government-based organizations. They are hiring like gangbusters. So what kind of jobs are there in cybersecurity? Well, if you look at it, there's entry-level jobs as well as some expert-level positions. They go from project management all the way to web design, quality assurance, product development, cloud security, artificial intelligence, identity management, access management, you name it, it's there. A lot of these sound very IT-ish. It's because, yeah, IT does have quite a lot of relevance here. However, they're growing by the numbers and newer opportunities are coming up. When we talk about 5G, 5G requires cybersecurity. We talk augmented realities, Meta, for example, it requires cybersecurity. All of these vehicle-to-vehicle communications and connections require cybersecurity. So there's a lot of that here. There's also policy-based cybersecurity components that you need to consider. So it's not the IT person's job anymore. It's actually a variety. I'll give you an example. For a software developer, to become a software developer, you'd need to get an education in coding, in software. That's a little bit more discipline detailed. And you need certification in developing software. CISSP is often common for certified information security professionals. That's a certification that applies there. If you're doing hardware robotic process automation, it's a different lifestyle. The mindset is around developing robots to be able to perform certain functions that are repetitive so that humans don't have to do this. It just adds efficiencies. Behavior analytics also applies. So your lifestyle is going to be very dynamic, very engaging. A different level of certification will be required. and a different type of job satisfaction will come from each of these. But in terms of what skills you need to get into cybersecurity, if you look at it, you know, STEM is a good background to have, science, technology, engineering, management. But if you don't have a technology function, you can still get in. The key attributes that we're looking for are problem solving abilities, your curiosity and eagerness to learn, strong communication skills, strong strategic thinking skills. So amongst all of the job satisfaction ratings that are being researched right now, cybersecurity job satisfaction ranks at 77%. It's like the highest among satisfaction figures reported. And this type of work is why, you know, you would ask why it would be the case. Well, a lot of the work is a highly engaging and very dynamic. It's not predictable. It's not the same old thing day after day after day. You have to constantly be learning. You have to continually be upgrading your skill set and your awareness, because there's newer nuances coming out every single day. So it is an exciting field to be in, and does not necessarily need you to be a technology person. You can actually go in from functional and process standpoint as well and get into a field such as that. I've provided some more information near the end, but at the bottom of this screen, you will see the certifications that are offered by ISC Squared. And on the right-hand side, there's isaca.org. These are both institutions that allow you to get certifications. They have a ton of training material there as well. So where do you begin? You need to start networking with people in cybersecurity. You know, join IPN, be involved with IPN. There's a lot of material we have. Get on LinkedIn and find different groups that you can follow, individuals you can follow. Please do connect with me as well. I post some information around cybersecurity where, you know, it might be insightful. We post jobs out there all the time. People are actually on my network, are constantly putting stuff out there saying, I'm hiring, here's what I'm looking for. If you know somebody, please redirect them to me. And so those opportunities are coming through LinkedIn, through contacts. And, you know, it's who you know, not what you know sometimes to get you in the door. And that gives you a good avenue to enter. You can join professional organizations, as I mentioned, with ISACA, IC Squared, ISSA. I've provided additional information and links at the bottom at the end of the slide deck, but it would be useful. Getting certified and getting educated are key things, but there are webinars out there too. I've given an example of brighttalk.com, where you can actually do a search on cybersecurity, and it'll throw up a plethora of different webinars that are available to the average user as well as expert users. You'll hear sentiments around cybersecurity. You're going to see some solutions that are coming up, some new nuances and new ways of doing business, or, you know, securing the environment. There's talk about data analytics. There's talk about 5G. They're talking about artificial intelligence. You name it, they have it. So it's a good research spot and to stay up to date. Also, you can read articles and reports around cybersecurity, similar to the one that I talked about, the Ponemon Institute Data Breach Report. It's published annually. It actually tells you where the most attention needs to be, and you'll find out what the causes are of the biggest data breaches. And perhaps you'll see some insights in there saying this might be an area you want to look into. There are cybersecurity conferences all over the place as well. So once you're on LinkedIn, you'll be able to see that. You can actually go to any of these sites and also check it out. Annually in 2022, they publish lists of cybersecurity conferences locally, globally, as well as online. So that might be useful. Excuse me. There are also some companies like Google, Microsoft, and others who are offering free training and certifications. Take advantage of that. Coursera has a lot of material as well. So that's readily available. You can just Google it, actually, and you'll find some training and certification plans that you can actually sign up for, oftentimes free. Khan Academy is also publishing a lot of information, so that might be useful as well. And your own employer sometimes, as well as the US government, is publishing information on how to get secure, how to learn about cybersecurity and the roles, et cetera. They are currently hiring like crazy in all of these fields. So I urge the audience here to get into that and do a little research and see what might wet your whistle. And so a summary guidance, similar to these little shapes that I have up the top right. Cybersecurity is fairly simple, but it needs you to be vigilant and perform that with diligence. It is up to you to secure yourself. Good health and hygiene of cybersecurity is for you to manage. And I wrote that attackers use path of least resistance is basically, if you were to compare two houses, one with a sign that says secured with ADT or something, and the other one that doesn't have that sign, the thief is actually not going to go to the one that has that sign over there, regardless if they have a security system or not. The thief is actually going to go to the path of least resistance, where he or she sees that there is not going to be resistance. There is no chance, at least not visibly, of it being protected. So try to show that, try to exercise it and exhibit it in your day-to-day behaviors. You don't need a fortress or a moat around your home. Just be diligent with safeguarding your information. You can't tell what a cyber attacker looks like. A hacker can have the face of a child. It could be a hacktivist. It could be some organized criminal, organized crime, nation states. There's a ton of different motives, right? Some of them do it for fun. Some want to steal your intellectual property. Some want money. Some want just prestige, and some are predatory. You just want to make sure that you are aware that there is no one face of an attacker. It could vary. There are tons of tools out there that can help you stay secure. Before you download those tools, make sure you understand their benefit. Check if other people have given them good ratings, positive customer feedback. That's very important. Sometimes crowdsourcing helps. So in that case, talk to people you know who have implemented something like that and see what they're doing and learn from each other. This is the best place to start. If you'll recognize, hackers actually are the most interconnected group around. They learn from each other, they talk to each other, they're constantly educating each other. So if they can do it, why shouldn't we? At least keep up. And then stay informed, talk to them. Talk to people who are in the know, spread the word about good cyber hygiene. Please, if you get the opportunity, talk about this session with family members, with friends, with workers at work. It doesn't have to be in a smiley person. It could be anybody. Just share this with them so that they can actually give back and protect as well. And attend more webinars like these to learn more. Keep learning, consider career in cybersecurity. And then if you have further interest, there are some websites I've provided in here. The SANS organization is fairly robust. They have lots of educational materials. There's books, there are resources. 2600.com actually started off as a hacking site. It was for hacking enthusiasts. It was not a hacking site. However, it has good information. It shares articles and information around, the old school hacking where telephones were hacked, payphones basically, and how they used to do that. Simple solutions around getting around, limitations on devices that were electronic. Some interesting stuff. And also imcybersafe.org actually has some good information around cyber safety for families to look at. The 3 professional organizations I've listed here are places where I actually have memberships. I have certifications through them. Take a look at them. They also have educational material and lots of information on how to get certified and what a path should be for somebody who wants to get into cybersecurity. The numbers that I shared around 12 times faster growth in the current job market and the average salaries, et cetera, that information came from the ISC squared cybersecurity workforce study estimate. So those information are available there as well. I'd like to open up for Q&A, but just wanted to share that there are a couple more pages here that you should look at once you get access to it, and what to keep in mind. That being said, back to you, Arslan.
Cool, awesome, thank you for that. And then also thank you for all the attendees. There's been a good amount of discussion going out in the chat, and people have been kind of helping each other, and that's amazing to see. So I just wanted to applaud everyone. And so I did my best to kind of pull some questions that I've kind of been noticing in the chat. So I think that the most common one I saw is, there's certifications, there's college degrees, but like, as someone who's entirely not in cybersecurity at the moment, I guess, what is the best course of action to get exposure to cybersecurity as a potential pivot or an entry point?
Well, networking is going to be key for you. You need to know what drives you. The lifestyle for cybersecurity can vary depending on the role that you're in. Most commonly, the entry point is an information security analyst in an operations center. Usually, these are the people who actually stare at a screen for alerts. And once an alert occurs, they actually they first perform a check to validate that the alert is correct. And based on that, they notify people. So it's around the monitoring and logging type thing. So it's Security Operations Center Analyst is what it's called. That would be the first place to begin. If you're into software and coding, you might want to take some classes on writing code in Python and understanding a little bit more. But if it's something that you don't enjoy, you can get into project management. Do some I would say temporary assignments through TKN are there's numerous out there, opportunities to help out the institutions. sign up to volunteer for one of those projects where if someone else is actually running a cybersecurity related project, you can tag along with them and assist and learn as you go. There's so many opportunities for that. When it comes to work, you can actually reach out to people at work to find out. Now, depending on where you work, um, reach out to your HR group and say, hey, listen, I'm interested in getting a mentorship type relationship with somebody who is in a career that's related to cybersecurity and just to learn more. So once you learn more, you'll have a better view of, okay, what do I want to do? But Security Operations Center is usually the starting point for many people I've seen. And it's been the easiest route in while you're building up your coffers of knowledge around what technologies exist and so on and so forth to learn. You can learn about tool usage. I mean, there's admin functions for a lot of these cybersecurity tools that are in the marketplace. SIM is a monitoring tool, monitoring mechanism, security incident event management. There are tools out there such as Splunk. That's a big tool right now where they need people to write use cases saying, when do I want to be alerted when certain things happen? How do I walk through the steps? There are people who are doing data analysis and strategy around how to manage and protect data. That does not require too much technical knowledge, but it does require a lot more understanding of how processes work for saving and securing data. Make something confidential, put a classification on a file so that nobody can access it. Identity and access management is a good place as well, where basically you use a tool to perform authorizing access for people to certain systems, and you write processes and so forth. There's also policy-based opportunities where you can actually work for the government. They put you through a training process in cybersecurity, and once you come out of it, you almost have a job. There are also places that are offering internships as I know a person in Canada, she's doing this in Toronto, where they're taking underprivileged children coming right out of school, giving them an opportunity to go through a training course for a number of weeks with a mentor in the industry. And those kids are landing opportunities left, right, and center for newer jobs just through that. And so there are a lot of organizations like that as well. So look into that. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, no, awesome. So I think we had another question that was kind of related, which was like, are certifications kind of like the cherry or the icing on on the cake? And is the network and like the skills more important?
I would say go build your skills and network first. Your certification is going to take a while. I'll give you an example. CISSP requires you to show 5 years of previous work doing that kind of stuff, if you will, in information security in a variety of different domains. And it requires that proof filed on paper and signature, etc., along with somebody vouching for you to say, yes, I can vouch for this person and they're telling the truth. And oh, by the way, that person better also be certified in that same space to be able to say, yes, you can move forward. This type of this is a gilded environment when it comes to this, certifications. So I would say start with the networks, get connected with the right people. You'll get an entree into work. If you are in school and you have the time and the energy to actually go do training and get certified, you could do a boot camp. It's a 5-day session. You attend it. At the 6th day, you get to sit down and you complete the test and you're done. You have a certificate that says that I passed the exam. The certification process doesn't complete until you prove that you've been doing the work. So if you've at least passed the exam, you can put that on your resume and take it to the bank, because it's going to be much more than the average person out there who does not have certification. It just gives you a leg up. Also, with certification, I found that you can actually make at least about 30,000 more than the average person who doesn't have certification. So it is quite enticing.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. We had another question kind of asking about what do you see the future of cybersecurity, and how is the landscape potentially shifting, and how can people kind of get ahead of the curve?
All right. Well, with the newer technologies just popping up again and again, one of the challenges we've had is integration of different systems, right? I'll give you, for example, right now, there is a new technology coming out with vehicle-to-vehicle communications, cars talking to each other, because this way they'll be able to tell you if the roads further up ahead are having any issues or there's a slowdown, and the cars are communicating through sensors. That technology has not been commonplace until just recently. And you are seeing sensors being installed in roadways where you see this long patch that's a very smooth looking patch on the road. You've never seen that before. It goes on for miles and miles and miles and only breaks between intersections. So you wonder what that is. So those are sensors that are allowing these driverless cars to now communicate with the road as well as other cars. So you can understand those communications networks, which is basically 5G based nowadays, those are coming through. So keeping an eye out on what's happening in the marketplace, reading these articles will give you a leg up. I'd say that 5G is next. Vehicle-to-vehicle communication is next. I think a lot of the transmission of communications content is next. You're also finding second, Web 2.0 and Web 3.0. They're talking about the augmented reality, where you can actually wear an Oculus or one of those VR machines, and you can be in a different place. There is extra, opportunities for building out non-fungible tokens, NFTs. You've probably heard crypto comes in play with that. Blockchain is coming into play with that. Those are good technologies to get into, to understand how it works, to enhance, to manipulate, to update, to administer. Those are technologies to get into. AI, artificial intelligence. I mean, we have AI built into our, Apple Watches, the Google, interfaces, Echo and Dot, and so on and so forth. It's already there. These are weak AI. Stronger AI is in the works. It's actually been used in non-civilian environments, but they are slowly trickling in. There is a process by which all the technology that had been created 20 years ago slowly gets released to the commercial space by non-civilian agencies, if you will. So those things are coming through, and they're all getting integrated together. The problem is standards aren't written for these things yet to control how they operate with each other. And so as newer technologies come in, there's room to grow technology, but also to write some standards. So that might be another thing to get into. The government is actually way further ahead than any of the other organizations out there. I think the technology organizations that are building such solutions, the startups and so on and so forth, they're further along because they're trying to harness this technology that's coming through, integrate it with other things, and build something new and innovate, building a better mousetrap and a new mousetrap at the same time. So I see the future to be quite filled with turmoil in trying to establish itself. But then I do anticipate, I guess I envision an environment where I wouldn't have to update things anymore. They'll do them themselves. The artificial intelligence capabilities will be so much more smarter and more capable and allowed to do so much more that it wouldn't require me to look over my shoulders anymore. It'll be done before I think about it. So, my problems will be solved before my problems become a problem to me. And that's what we're waiting for. I think it's happening in some circles. It's not fully proliferated throughout the world, but it's coming.
Awesome.
By the way, I wanted to add one more thing. I mentioned the phishing and SMSing, the links that you get. There's actually vishing, which is coming, which is video based. And there is technology out there now where someone can actually do a video call with you and look like someone entirely different through computer graphics, and you won't be able to tell the difference. The voice call quality as well as the picture quality will be exactly the same as that of the real person who you may know, but it isn't that person. So spoofing of that is also becoming much more mainstream as we get used to Zoom and the Google Meet and so on and so forth. So just be cautious of those interactions. They're not as common yet, but they're coming.
Awesome. I think that was the bulk of the questions that I kind of had gathered together, but I'll go ahead and let people unmute themselves one by one if you had any questions that you guys wanted to ask Asif directly.
Hi, Asif. I'll just jump right in here. I wanted to ask you, how do you think ransomware is going to change in the coming years? And how do you think that's going to affect incident response and kind of like that field if you're going into that like entry level?
Incident response, actually, this is the challenge for many organizations. Incident response is not a very mature discipline yet for many organizations, especially the smaller to medium businesses. They are struggling. They basically manage by exception. When they face it, they do it real time. and they learn, they trip, they fall, they lose so much money and productivity in the process. Ransomware is just one way of attacking an environment. It just freezes the information. You might have the ability now to actually recover from it and recover the money back from the individuals who are sending these ransomware things. The government's already done that. The crypto coin debacle that we just recently saw. So we're getting more savvier, if you will, if there is a term. But the landscape will shift to something else. And I think the focus needs to be on organization trying to do some simulations or desktop exercises to pretend a fire drill, for example, right? In your home, you need to know, okay, if there was a fire, not that you've ever experienced it in your life, but if there were one, it would have devastating consequences. So let's talk about what would happen if there was a fire, document that from a business standpoint, and then let's understand what are we going to do when that happens? Who's going to be in charge of what? Who's going to communicate with everybody else, telling them that this happened? Where do we all meet if there was ever, if we were in a public space versus home? What would we pick up first? Am I going to grab my passport, or am I going to grab my laptop, or am I going to grab my keys? What am I going to get? I need my car keys to get out. So maybe that'll be the first thing, right? And some of the family members, maybe they're not as capable of getting up and going and running on their own. So maybe they need help. Maybe a baby needs to be picked up first, of course. So you'll have to think through how an incident needs to be responded to. Actually, good thing, there is a document by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. It's called the Cybersecurity Framework. It was a framework developed by the US government as well as commercial institutions based on an executive order by Obama. It was created because the government realized that cyber is a challenge for the entire nation, not just the government. Commercial institutions were hurting so bad. So basically that executive order forced the government and the commercial institutions to come together to come up with a cookbook on what's good practice. And it went over functions such as identifying the event, detecting the event, protecting from the event, responding to the event, and then recovery from the event. So those 5 functions became key. It's called the NIST CSF, that's NIST Cybersecurity Framework. If you went to www.nist.gov, NIST is National Institute of Standards and Technology, you can actually do a search for CSF and it'll pop up version 1.1, I believe, the latest one. It's still being revised now, and they try to keep up with it. We used to have like cloud or mobile security at the time, but it's been added in since. So incident management, if you're into incident response, the respond and recovery feature, as well as protect, as well as identify, those functions are all relevant. You can read through it, and it's actually a framework of frameworks, which means it actually points to 5 different authoritative standards, COBIT, ISO, and a couple more there, worthy of a weekend read if you have the time. But that should help you, give you some insights and in terms of where you want to head towards preparing for the next ransomware-ish challenge. Just keep your eyes peeled for the latest news on cybersecurity, and you'll find out what else is coming. It is right now, I feel that individuals are harvesting, the opportunities of vulnerabilities, vulnerable people. We did a survey, actually, we did a research at a particular client in my previous days at another firm, a management consulting firm. And we found that the chances of the same individual clicking are 37% on the same link. And they went through tons of training around not clicking the link, and they did it again and again and again. So human nature, is also playing against us in some cases, where we rely and we trust, and it can create some havoc for us. So ransomware is going to be around for a while, but it's going to now become automated. It's not going to become, it won't be the 13-year-old sitting in mom's garage or basement. It's going to be something much more robust and unique. And it won't be only 100 people at a time getting spammed. It'll be through some really unique methods. One lady said, I got a text and it said, my car's in the shop, was in the shop earlier, and they need me to click on a link so that I can provide them more information. And she said, I actually did drop my car in the shop, but I'd never received a text like that from the shop people. And so I haven't responded yet. Should I call them? Should I figure it out? And lo and behold, the place told them that no, there was no text. We don't send texts for people. So there was an attempt. But imagine how advanced these attempts are now. where they know where you've been and they can follow your credit card records to figure out where you just went to and send you a text that seems completely legitimate, but it's not. So good hygiene is going to be important.
Thank you so much.
Hi, so my name is Azim Lakhani, and I've been a certified project manager for over 20 years with my PMP. I was one of the first guys in the Department of Mental Health in Raleigh, North Carolina, to write the first HIPAA privacy and security policies. And I've got my season for the last 3 years. I attend ISACA presentations regularly. Unfortunately, I've not been able to land a job in cybersecurity. I've got myself various assignments in regulatory and compliance in GRC, but not cybersecurity. So I'm not sure why, and I'm not the only one. I know several people in Florida that I hang out with. We all have the same problem. So I was just wondering, is it just something that we are doing wrong, or is it something that maybe the numbers are not quite right that the Department of Labor produces? So I just want your insight in that.
Yeah, so I kind of found a discrepancy there, right, with the Department of Labor numbers, because the numbers are astounding. I'll tell you, one of the greatest challenges we have right now is a talent shortage in cybersecurity. The roles that you're talking about, governance, risk, and compliance, they're actually very cybersecurity oriented. In fact, it falls right in cybersecurity. So there might be a confusion around what you call cybersecurity, because it's much broader now. And forgive me, I'm not calling out a mistake here. I'm just saying that there is a chance for organizations not to recognize that GRC is like, that's what a CISO does. The right-hand person to Chief Information Security Officer, or the heir apparent, is usually the person in charge of governance, risk, and compliance. If you're doing HIPAA and you're doing privacy projects, they are directly cybersecurity related projects. I would say expand your network into people who are in functions of cybersecurity to get some insights from them around saying, look, what do you do in your organization for cybersecurity? And are there opportunities? I myself am looking for consultants right now. I need to staff 20 people in the next 3 months for a function. Of course, I need director levels who have been in the Big Four. I'm looking for managers, but I mean, that's besides the point. Every organization like mine is looking for people.
So if you are looking for a lot of people, you may want to look into Florida, because a lot of the organizations that I belong to and we talk to, we all of us are having the same problem, is that apparently there seems to be a critical skill shortage, but when we apply, there are no jobs. I think the similar thing happened a long time ago when there was a sort of a critical shortage in IT professionals, and they kept on complaining, and eventually a lot of people came from various different countries to fill the same positions at much lower pay. So do you think that could be the other problem, is that if you're trained in the United States, you're expecting a higher pay, and those jobs are outsourced to other countries for lower pay?
Oh gosh, we're past the outsourcing portion now. That is a potential, yes, but a lot of organizations are actually, so I'll tell you, my team in my previous job, I ended up losing people. This is a Big Four position, and I lost people who were just starting off in the first, second year in their jobs, and they were being offered 50,000 more than they were with my firm. And we're not paying chump change for these positions, right? So that kind of goes against what you're just telling me, saying, well, I'm not finding position. I'm losing people to organizations that are giving them much more. So I can't say for sure that it's because of other people coming in from other countries and taking a lower pay. I'm sure competition's out there. If you are the most capable person on a list, it's not what you know, it's who you know as well. So I would strongly recommend connecting with some folks. In fact, I was, Arsalan, perhaps maybe we need to consider this. I think I'd sent you an email around this. A very good 1-2 punch on this opportunity is to get some of our recruiting staff people who are actually doing active recruiting for roles like these, who are in HR functions, et cetera, and share with them a list of interested parties who might benefit from knowledge of, okay, how do I get in? What's a good way to break in? And perhaps that could be the next session for IPN to share with the community.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, IPN always has resources available to help Jamati members, whether you're looking for employment or just networking in general. So we can definitely
So
work with.
Asif, I'm not saying you're saying anything wrong. I'm just providing an alternate point of view from another different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Azim. I really do. The thought perspective is helpful here. I think what we need to do is, in fact, Azim, if you don't mind, please reach out to me afterwards. I'd like to connect with you. Um, I'm seeing quite a few people asking for people. So, and your background seems to be pretty interesting. So, I'd like to learn a little bit more if you don't mind.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing, sure thing. And you're in Florida. Where in Florida are you?
I used to live in a pub. I just sold my home,
Okay,
and I'm currently staying with some friends in Rayford, North Carolina, which is just outside Fayetteville,
okay,
my old
okay.
stomping ground.
All right, nice, nice. So I used to live in, I'm between Orlando and Chicago quite a bit. So,
Okay.
it'd be nice to connect. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Hello.
Hi, Mahmood. Howdy.
Hi, yeah, that.
Part of this thing is also the application process is you get stuck in the AI of the applicant tracking systems and things don't go places. There have to be larger reasons to this because, like, for instance, I applied for some jobs at Microsoft and Facebook, and I realize they get thousands of applications, but when you don't get anything back, something is awry. Like something's weird, you know? And then one of their competitors reached out to me that I didn't apply to. So I think it goes to that where you were saying it's also who you know. And they have to be advocates within the company in that field that will push for you. So you have to have a combination of all this stuff. And I don't know if it just things get filtered out with certifications or what, but the application tracking systems work against you for sure. So you have to find someone that will reach out to the hiring manager and say, I know this person, you should talk to them.
Absolutely.
Just
in fact, it's been known that the process moves a lot faster if you do know somebody on the inside. I agree with you. I mean, thank you for sharing.
So
We'll take one more question from Ilyan, and then we'll have to wrap it up.
Sure thing.
Hello. How are you doing?
All right, good. Thank you, Elian.
I have like two questions. The first one is, what coding like platform do you recommend, and like which one is like mostly used?
Lately, in fact, there's a plethora of out there you can research, but Python has been most commonly seen. In fact, a lot of the organizations are training within their organizations to get people up to speed with Python so they can manipulate systems that they have already. There are some components associated with tools for automation. So security automation is an orchestration automation is big nowadays. So you can look at some tools like Blue Prism and so on and so forth. But Python I've seen the most referenced.
And also, what about like C++ in JavaScript? Or are those?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. So what's coming up is the Python component. C++, Java, definitely. Most of the applications and systems, homegrown systems in particular, are built based off of that. Lots of the common off-the-shelf ones also have those things. So for customization purposes and enhancements, absolutely, you do need to know those. But the most common I've seen is then the most latest one is around Python capability.
Also, one last question is like these coding like competitions, like will they like get you like the best job, like if you like win the competition, or like you're like in the top 3?
It does get you noticed. It won't guarantee you a job, I'm sure, but these competitions are meant to recognize people who are capable so that they can cherry pick. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
So my organization currently, they have hackathons within the organization to not just find people who are capable, but also build the rest of the people so that they can have this feeling of accomplishment and also camaraderie with people who are like-minded, and it brings them all together. And then once you have a strong enough batch, they can actually be assigned newer projects to go work off. So it's just to raise awareness and enhance their current capabilities from an organization standpoint. So yeah, that is a good place to start.
Because the reason why I'm asking this is because like like one of my friends, she did like a hackathon, like she got like a 6-figure job like immediately from like Google.
Wonderful. Yeah. So that's another avenue where if you have the skill set, go out there and show what you're good at, and you'll be recognized. I'm telling you, the opportunities. I mean, what I am seeing is perhaps not getting the topmost jobs, but the opportunity to get into a cyber related function is it's in demand. It's not easy. You can't just walk in and say, "Hey, I want to do cybersecurity and get me a job," or that I've done this much coding. You have to have certain attributes, certain soft attributes. You have to have the ability to stay organized, to stay up to date, to be knowledgeable about the craft that you're involved with. Those things are key, right? So I talked about having curiosity and the eagerness to learn. I talked about having some strategic thinking skills. Those things are equally as important as certification and cybersecurity experience.
All right, then. Thanks for answering my questions. Have a
You're
good day.
You too. Yeah.
Awesome. I guess any last questions or closing remarks, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right. So just wanted to recognize Arsalan, you for your hard work here and getting this to happen. I appreciate everyone else for listening so quietly and carefully and actually asking very pointed questions. These are very valuable because your questions allow the rest of the team to actually hear what the prevailing thoughts are. Some people don't like asking questions, so thank you for stepping up and bringing things to light where your concerns are. I think we should keep in mind, again, cybersecurity is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Automation is increasing. The talent search continues. The highest risk for most corporations is not having sufficient talent, especially around cybersecurity environments. There are opportunities not just in the commercial space, but also in the government space. A lot of these opportunities are being, provided to people who actually train on systems such as Google's environment or Microsoft environment. A lot of the cloud security things are coming up. They're very hot right now. My staff right now is looking for cloud people. So just bear that in mind. Newer technologies mean more opportunities, and it's not so easy for people to just pivot just like that. Some people just don't want to move from their current positions, and so the opportunities remain, and the money's darn good. So that's all I have to add. Thank you.
Yep, and thank you, Asif, for spending your Saturday afternoon with us. Greatly appreciate it.
Please do share this with family, friends, local, global, wherever you need to. Just get them educated on cybersecurity, not necessarily about the jobs, but around good cyber hygiene, especially people with children. Just, I think that would be very, very key. I would say even our seniors, they get marginalized sometimes because they don't have the awareness and they have to deal with this new technology that doesn't make any sense. At least, tell them about the phishing pieces and how to avoid it, and just putting secure passwords and good practices in place. That's it. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Yali Madad.
Yeah, mother.
Yep.
You all have a wonderful evening and weekend. Bye-bye.